Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will be, Senator.
Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. Welcome, Ms. Bondi.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you for meeting with me. I greatly appreciate that.
It was a pleasure. Ms. Bondi, you were a courtroom prosecutor for a great many years. As a courtroom prosecutor, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
And you went on to be Florida's Attorney General. As Florida's Attorney General, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
As Florida's Attorney General, you were responsible for hiring into the Florida Department of Attorney General, correct?
Senator, the Attorney General's office in Florida is the third largest in the state, approximately 1,400 employees and approximately 400 lawyers. Only California and Texas are our bigger offices.
And you were responsible
so, yes.
for hiring into that office while you were Attorney General?
Yes.
Would you have hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list?
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Thank you. The FBI's, what is the FBI's role in national security and counterterrorism, and how important is that role?
You know, Senator, I believe now more than ever, counterterrorism is so important and vital in our country. We are facing such incredible threats here and abroad. I'm sure many of you saw former FBI Director Wray's interview on 60 Minutes. He talked about the threats that, frankly, again, I don't have my security clearance, but the threats facing us, Senator, from China right now that are so great, with the sleeper cells within our country.
Given that importance, is it responsible to call for shutting down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work? And will you, as Attorney General, impede or shut down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work?
Senator, I believe that national security is vital right now for our country on so many fronts. I could continue to discuss many others.
And the FBI's role in that?
And the FBI plays a vital role in counterterrorism
which you will or will not shut down?
I will look at each agency. I have no intention of shutting anything down right now, Senator. I am not in that office yet, and if confirmed, I will look at each individual agency and how it should be managed, but counterterrorism right now in our world is vital.
You have said that Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted in the Trump administration. What Department of Justice prosecutors will be prosecuted and why?
I said that on TV. I said prosecutors will be prosecuted, to finish the quote, if bad. Investigators will be investigated. You know, we all take an oath, Senator, to uphold the law. None of us are above the law. Let me give you a really good example of a bad lawyer within the Justice Department, a guy named Klein Smith, who altered a FISA warrant, one of the most important things we can do in this country. So will everyone be held to an equal, fair system of justice if I am the next Attorney General? Absolutely. And no one is above the law.
Under what circumstances will you prosecute journalists for what they write?
I believe in the freedom of speech. Only if anyone commits a crime. It's pretty basic, Senator, with anything, with any victim. And this goes back to my entire career for 18 years as a prosecutor and then 8 years as Florida's Attorney General. You find the facts of the case, you apply the law in good faith, and you treat everyone fairly.
And it would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him, actually starting back in 2016. They targeted his campaign. They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward, or we're going to lose our country.
Yeah, I think the concern is that weaponization of the Justice Department may well occur under your tenure. And we want to make sure that that's not the case, that you remain independent, that you remain able to and willing to tell the president no when that's necessary to protect the Constitution and the integrity of the department. So that's where I'm asking these questions. We talked in the meeting about the contacts policy that has prevailed really since Senator Hatch sat in that chair and demanded it of the Clinton Justice Department through all the administration since then, with the exception of a brief period under Attorney General Gonzalez, which he corrected and which did not end well for him. There has been a contacts policy that limits contacts between the White House and the Department of Justice to a very few senior officials on each side. In your role as Attorney General, if you are confirmed, will you maintain, defend, and enforce that longstanding contacts policy?
Senator, yes, I will meet with White House counsel and I will meet with the appropriate officials and follow the contacts policy.
My time has expired. Thank you, Ms. Bondi.
Senator Cornyn.
In the final moments of this hearing, it was that sharp exchange. The moment Senator Sheldon Whitehouse pressed Pam Bondi on the question of an enemies list, and her unwavering reply that such a thing would never exist under her leadership, that defined everything we witnessed today. It wasn't just a question about one name or one quote or one political figure. It was a question about the very soul of American justice. A question about whether the Department of Justice would serve the Constitution or serve the powerful. And it was in that tension, in that clash between accusation and conviction, that we saw the deeper struggle unfolding beneath the surface. Pam Bondi, a former prosecutor and state attorney general, stood her ground. She rejected the idea of secret lists. She rejected the idea of targeting citizens for who they are rather than what they've done. And as she made that clear, Senator Whitehouse pushed harder, demanding answers about loyalty, independence, and the weight of political forces pressing against the machinery of law. It was a moment where two fundamentally different visions of justice collided right in the center of the Senate chamber. And yet, something else was happening beneath the words. When Bondi spoke of equal application of the law, when she invoked the oath every public servant swears, when she insisted that none of us are above the law, she touched a deeper chord, a chord that resonates far beyond partisan lines or political loyalties. Because beneath this exchange lies a hard truth. Americans are losing faith in their institutions. And moments like this are not just political theater. They are tests. They reveal whether the officials asking for power understand the gravity of what that power means. Senator Whitehouse pressed her about the FBI, about national security, about whether she would block, freeze, or dismantle parts of the government at the request of a future president. His questions weren't just procedural, they were warnings, a reminder that history judges leaders not for their promises, but for the boundaries they refuse to cross. And in those questions, you could hear a deep concern, a fear that the system might bend once more under the weight of political pressure. Bondi, for her part, framed her answers around principle and personal experience. She spoke of the threats the country faces, foreign threats, internal threats, the complexities of the modern world. She emphasized the importance of counterterrorism work, the seriousness of the moment, the need to keep Americans safe. But she also insisted on something else, that fairness cannot be sacrificed in the name of security. That justice must remain blind, or it ceases to be justice at all. Then came the moment that cut deeper than any other. When Senator Whitehouse asked about prosecuting journalists, Bondi's answer returned to the foundational idea that lawful conduct is the only standard that matters. Not affiliation, not ideology, not headlines. And when she said that prosecutors must start with a crime and look for a name, not the other way around, she identified a fault line that runs through every modern political debate. Because in those words is the entire argument over weaponization, over trust, over the very legitimacy of the justice system. When Bondi accused the government of targeting Donald Trump since 2016, it was more than rhetoric. It was the thesis of her entire appearance, that the last several years have strained the nation's institutions, pushed people apart, and fractured public confidence. And whether you agree with her assessment or not, one thing is undeniable. Millions of Americans feel exactly the same way. They believe the system has been bent, twisted, or used in ways that damage its credibility. And hearings like this one are, in many ways, a struggle to repair that credibility or to hold those responsible to account. Senator Whitehouse responded with a cautionary message of his own. He warned of future corruption, future politicization, future misuse of power. He warned that independence, true independence, means the courage to say no to a president, even when pressured to say yes. His concern was not about one person. It was about the architecture of our democracy, the invisible framework that keeps justice stable even in turbulent times. And then, as the hearing drew to a close, the conversation shifted to the long-standing contacts policy, that crucial firewall between the White House and the Department of Justice. The guardrail that protects investigations from political hands. Bondi promised she would uphold it. Whitehouse reminded her why it exists, because once that line is crossed, the trust of the American people is almost impossible to restore. So what did today reveal? It revealed the fragility of our system and the strength of the principles that hold it together. It revealed deep disagreements about the past, the future, and the very nature of justice. But more importantly, it revealed something fundamental about power. It must always be restrained, examined, and held accountable. Because without accountability, there is no justice. And without justice, there is no republic. The American experiment has survived for nearly 250 years, not because our leaders are perfect, but because our institutions demand checks, limits, and transparency. Today's hearing was a reminder that those values are not guaranteed. They must be defended, not by one party or one administration, but by everyone who believes in the rule of law. Whether Pam Bondi becomes the next Attorney General or not, the questions raised today will remain. They will define the coming months, shape national debates, and influence how Americans see their government. And as citizens, we carry a responsibility to stay informed, to question, to pay attention, and to insist that the people who hold power respect the Constitution they swear to uphold. Because in the end, the health of this nation rests not only on the choices made by leaders, but on the vigilance of the people. If you believe oversight matters, if you believe transparency matters, if you believe the truth must always be confronted head-on, then stay with us. This is Liberty Report USA. Subscribe, support our work, and help us continue exposing the moments that shape America's future.